Okay, got that rolling. Now we live on YouTube. Welcome back, Team DWC. It's your boy TWP Popcorn. Y'all already know what time it is. Hopefully, we got better studio quality today because a couple videos been sucking over there on the Rumble side. But hell, if you listen to the videos, it's always good quality. But the videos might be somewhere. You never know. It be like that. But hey, at least you with your boy. So hell, pull up. Rumble, YouTube, whichever way you want to do it. But we got them both available for you. So either way you like the quality, go get you a video, right? If the Rumble video quality wasn't good for you, go get it on YouTube. If you might prefer it on Rumble whenever it's better quality over there, but you know how it be. Video quality be scattered. Yeah. Let's go ahead and get these started while I get Pig in my chat because I can't be in here by myself. That don't feel right. It don't feel right. Started the live. I was alone. What happened? Spider Pig hadn't pulled up yet. Shouts out to Dallas, Texas, Guns and Cooking. We do that by introducing you to great resources. Appreciate him for being live. All along the way. Today we got both. A guest that's going to be talking about some fabulous resources that he's using so that you can help grow your health, business, and your wealth. Today's special guest has a greener thumb than old McDonald himself. This plants that this gentleman grows will make anybody say E-I-E-I-O. Now, when it comes to understanding agriculture, George Washington Carver has reincarnated himself in the form of a man from Missouri. When it comes to growing things, he makes the Jolly Green Giant look like a midget. It's time for today's featured guest, consultant and agriculturalist extraordinaire. This time for TWP.
Hey, welcome back.
Just in, close up to the hand.
Hey, there you go.
Great introduction. I'm trying to do what I can do.
All right. Man, I appreciate that intro from Corey Hill. That'll always have you hyped up.
Here is your state-by-state update for May 2026. Hey, I'm Morgan Davis. I'm a health and wellness attorney based in Raleigh, North Carolina. Let's talk about how to keep your business protected and thriving. One of the biggest needs in the hemp and cannabis industry is a tracker for the constantly changing regulatory, legislative, and legal shifts across the industry and across the United States. If you're a business selling in one state, it might be easy for you to track what's going on in your own state. But if you're a business selling in, let's say, 10 or more, it can become a full-time job to keep track of all the different ways that states are changing regulations when it comes to your products or your type of business. So once a month, my gift to the industry is I go over the changes in the last 30 to 45 days that I think are the most significant when it comes to the hemp and cannabis industry. The theme for May 2026, sometimes a step forward is actually a step back. And sometimes a step back is actually a step forward. Let's start with new federal legislation. So if you've been here for a while, thanks for coming back. Nice to see you. We've all been talking about the 2026 appropriations bill that threw a wrench in everybody's business moving into this year and potentially well into the future. That goes into effect November 12th of 2026, which would significantly limit the current federal language around what is legal hemp and what is not. After the passage of the appropriation bill, there's been constant ongoing fight at the federal level to change it, extend the language, do all sorts of things, anything to prevent what is still at this moment happening come November 12th. There's also been an array of reactions at the state level. At the federal level, we've seen a number of bills proposed, and the latest is proposed by House Representative Andy Barr out of Kentucky, and it's called the Lawful Hemp Protection Act. It is one of the most significant bills we've seen in terms of actually proposing not just a better what a lot of us would consider to be a better standard when it comes to what is federally legal hemp, but goes as far as prescribing testing standards and age gating and milligram caps that are reasonable and packaging and all sorts of other regulations that we have yet to see proposed at the federal level to this extent. There have been previous bills that have attempted to do this, and none with a lot of success. This bill doesn't have a number yet, so we're still waiting to see what success, if any, this bill will have, but it's definitely one worth watching. If it becomes law, it will significantly change the hemp industry, I believe, for the better. Other federal action to be aware of, the White House drug strategy was recently published, and it essentially talks about a lot of illicit substances, but it does reference marijuana and does reference the commercialization of marijuana as a concern in the notes. And the commercialization of marijuana it's referring to, most believe, is the hemp industry as a whole. This publication is a little bit out of line with a lot of the rhetoric that we've heard coming out of the White House, which we felt has leaned more positive in the direction of hemp. This leans more in a negative direction of being concerned that the hemp industry is what many say it is, which is it's the Wild West, and it's really just legal weed, and it's the way that they've, the hemp loophole that's allowed what should be regulated cannabis to enter the federal commercial market. It's not said that explicitly. Again, it's more of a leaning in that direction. But for many, it was sort of red flag, be aware of that this is still part of the White House's rhetoric. So anybody who's selling to you that President Trump's administration is pro-hemp and absolutely behind the hemp industry, I think is probably selling you not the whole story. There's a group, Smart Approaches to Marijuana, which is historically very anti-cannabis, that filed an action against the FDA and against the federal rescheduling of cannabis, specifically against the program that would allow for Medicare patients to get access to CBD products and other products containing hemp-derived THC as part of their Medicare treatments. And so they filed an action against that, filed an action against the rescheduling as a whole. A court has come back and dismissed their complaint for procedural deficiencies, essentially stating that they failed to show that they are injured, and while they are opposed to it, and they certainly have strong opinions against it, they failed to show that they were personally injured by the rescheduling or by any action that has been taken thus far to move cannabis into mainstream commerce or into a place where it's more widely accessible to Americans. That's certainly a step in the right direction, as a lot of people were concerned as to whether or not this group would continue to be sort of a fly in the ointment for rescheduling. And I think it's nice to see that there's a nod in the direction of, while we certainly understand their opinion, it's not going to stop progress. Let's move into talking about the states. First, the biggest disappointment of the last 45 days is Missouri. Missouri adopted the federal appropriations language from the existing 2026 appropriations bill that will go into effect November 12th, the 0.4 milligram total THC per container cap, putting everything else into the regulated market in Missouri. That bill passed and has been accepted by the governor. If that
get rid of our governor, I see.
If the federal language does
we'll
not
be ready
change,
to campaign on that.
Then the Missouri bill, and whether or not the federal language, the Missouri bill will stand. But I think we all assume that if the federal language changes, then the hope is states that pass it now will go back and amend it later. But there's no guarantee of that. So
And
for
then there's still
now,
our rec
everyone
market,
in Missouri
so,
should
you
know
know, they
that
could
as of
ban hemp.
November 12th, not only federal, if nothing changes federally, of course that will become federal law, but it will also become state law in Missouri. Texas. If you've been watching social media in the last month, you've probably heard a lot of people talk about the Texas whiplash. So going back into February and March, the Department of State Health Services, or DSHS, for Texas passed updated regulations for the hemp industry that went into effect March 31st. They would have made massive changes to the existing hemp industry, including adopting a total THC ban, high licensing fees, testing, packaging, labeling requirements. That has been stayed. There was a lawsuit filed against it. Travis County judge entered an injunction to stop that. It was appealed, and then the appeal is pending, but the court has held that the injunction will stay in place for the time being while the issue is on appeal. So that's one side of the hemp industry, right? Smokable hemp and most intoxicating hemp products, and most of the Texas market continues to stay the same. The other thing that happened in Texas at the same time is that the Texas Supreme Court made a decision in a long-standing case over Delta 8. So years ago, there was a attempted rulemaking by the Texas DSHS to make Delta 8 products illegal as synthetics and as not falling within the definition of hemp. That rulemaking was enjoined and appealed and has been sitting for a long time waiting for some decision to be made. And what's very interesting about timing is that while we have this larger hemp issue with new DSHS rules, the Supreme Court comes in and finally has a ruling on this Delta 8 issue. And they are, some would say, inconsistent in that in one case, Texas courts found that that DSHS had overstepped their jurisdiction. And in the Delta 8 case, they found that they had not, and that they were allowed to make rules banning specific cannabinoids like Delta 8. So, Texas, that's why they call it the Texas whiplash or the Texas split. We're still waiting to see what DSHS is going to do in terms of Delta 8 moving forward based on the Texas Supreme Court's most recent ruling. But it's safe to say that it is likely that Delta 8 will be illegal in the Texas market soon, or prohibited, and that may mean that they then take the step to ban other cannabinoids. We may see them sort of revert back to the trend of a few years ago where they go after the synthetics, but we'll just have to wait and see. Virginia has been an interesting jurisdiction to watch for years as they've passed medical cannabis program and implemented that. They've passed adult use, but every time they've tried to actually implement a framework and start issuing licenses, it's been stopped. Well, it's once again been stopped. There was a bill, a large cannabis bill with a regulatory framework for an adult use program passed the legislature, and it's been vetoed by the governor at the urging of the hemp industry in Virginia. Why? Because in that bill, there were several amendments thrown in that would change the current regulatory environment of Virginia for hemp, which is already quite restrictive, but it would have made it even more restrictive, and anything that did not fall within the new limitations would have had to go through the regulated cannabis system. So the Virginia hemp industry urged the governor to veto it and bring it back in the legislative session in the fall, where it could be readdressed and new regulations could come up with, especially to sort of wait and see what happens at the federal level. Governor listened and vetoed the bill. So things are staying the same for the hemp industry in Virginia for the time being, but it is anticipated the issue will come back up in the fall. Delaware has 4 competing bills right now. They have about a month left in their legislative session, and they've got 4 competing bills regarding hemp right now. One would adopt the federal appropriations language, which would go into effect in November, essentially banning the majority of the existing hemp industry in Delaware. Another, that's HB 395. HB 401 would shoe the hemp industry under the state's cannabis board, and they would be regulated by them, but they would be allowed to apply for a license and sell products up to a certain milligram cap outside of cannabis dispensaries still. So it's a hybrid model that would technically put it within the cannabis industry's purview or the cannabis agency's purview, but it would not totally shut down the sale of all hemp products outside of dispensaries. The other 2 bills one is a straight beverage bill, and the other is more of a creating a hemp regulatory framework that's still totally separate from the cannabis industry. These are obviously all 4 very different approaches and competing interests. And there's, as I said, there's only about a month left, so it will be interesting to see who wins out in the state of Delaware. New Jersey, if you recall from the last couple of months, has slowly narrowed their market to basically just hemp beverages, and they narrowed it down to caps of 10 milligrams and 5 milligrams. Now there's a bill moving through the Senate to increase the format to allow for the sale of large format bottles in liquor stores. This is notable because it shows that New Jersey is definitely moving in the direction of being a very pro-hemp beverage state, where it will, if it continues in this direction, probably allow for most formats of hemp beverages in the state down the road. North Carolina is in a short session right now that would end August 31st or even potentially before that. There is a bill, SB 265, from the previous session that's carried over that has a lot of support by the hemp industry in North Carolina, and including myself, and would adopt a significant but very fair regulatory framework for hemp businesses in North Carolina. We'll all be watching it too, in hopes that it does pass quickly and allows for everyone a little peace and some breathing room. Right now, the lack of regulation in North Carolina has created a situation where businesses are still raided and business owners are charged with trafficking in marijuana and all sorts of other very serious criminal offenses. They have their business accounts seized, personal property seized, homes raided. Everyone's no longer interested in operating in that kind of unclear regulatory space. 265 would give them some cover and also give law enforcement some, I believe, understanding and insight into this business that they feel they currently don't have. Nebraska has, it's not legislation. The Department of Agriculture is going through a rulemaking process. They've proposed rules that would essentially make all consumable hemp products that contain any intoxicating cannabinoid, Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10, HHC, THCP, THCO, etc., any product that's for human consumption that contains any of those would become adulterated in the state of Nebraska and not be allowed to be sold for human consumption. Anything that did contain that would have to be sold through the regulated cannabis market in Nebraska. That rulemaking has a public hearing set for June 18th. After that, there will be a process by which they take all the comments made and they propose final rules. And if it's not challenged, if there's enough input, there's very specific rules around how that process goes, then it will become a final rule. Illinois, as of today, May 26, 2026, has a bill that's moving very, very quickly. the Illinois General Assembly, their legislative session ends May 31st, so we're very, very close. And in the last several days, they have an omnibus cannabis package. So it's a huge, it's like a 550-page bill that would amend the existing regulated cannabis industry significantly in Illinois. In it, there is some language that would also significantly limit the hemp industry in Illinois. And now those bills, it's a package of bills, now are moving very quickly through the General Assembly. The high level of it is it would adopt the federal language that the 2026 appropriations bill adopted, and it would go into effect on the same date, November 12th. Smokable and inhalable products would become illegal, and most intoxicating products would have a way to be sold through dispensaries or the regulated market in Illinois, but it would have to comply with all the standards of the Illinois cannabis market, which, if you're in, is very stringent. There are a lot of folks very concerned about this, and there's going to be, I imagine, a lot of effort pushed to stop it from happening in the next couple of days. But this isn't the first time this has been attempted in Illinois. It's, I think, maybe the fifth or sixth. We'll see if this one's successful. Finally, I'll close with Indiana. There was a recent study done in the state of Indiana about the amount of money leaving the state every year going to surrounding states that have
Cannabis
regulated
programs.
markets, whether it's hemp, medical cannabis, or regulated cannabis. And it's to the tune of about $1.8 billion. And the study highlights something important, which is and not that Indiana's banned hemp, but without regulation, without a clear pathway forward, business does not thrive, right? We've seen the same thing in North Carolina. We have a very large hemp industry here, but it lives in a state of flux and a huge state of fear. That can be its own, it can be very stifling for business. And if you are a business owner, you probably are only willing to build so far in that kind of environment, and you will eventually move into more regulated environments that are stable, long-lasting. You can get better.
What do I always say? If they ain't acting right where you stay, be ready to move. MOVE, move. It's like pawns and pieces on a chessboard. Shell turn to move, right? Right.
Investment, better financing, etc., because the rules are clear. That's happened in Indiana, it's happened in North Carolina, it's happened in other states who have no regulation. And it's a data point in the larger picture that regulation is a direction we all want to move in. It should be common sense regulation. Total bans don't work. We've seen that over and over again. And of course, what does common sense regulation mean, and who gets to define that? Well, we're watching that happen in real time, right? But what I think is clear from the last month in Texas, in some of the other states like Ohio, where they've passed a total ban and then courts have enjoined, and we've seen where a step backwards then becomes a step forward. We've also seen in states like Missouri where a step forward, where they had beaten back bans for so long, then became a step backward, and they ultimately were effective in shooing everything into the cannabis industry. We're going to continue to sort of see this dance back and forward from now until November, and until we get some clarity at the federal level. I hope this was helpful to you. If you're a business selling in more than 10 states and you're having trouble keeping up with all of this, please give us a call. We do 50-state analysis for companies like yours all the time, and we'd be happy to help you. Hey friends, thanks for watching. If you're like me and you can't sit in front of a screen all day, you like to get up and move around, or You got to chase young kids or dogs or cats for that matter. I don't know, maybe you got pigs. And you need to not be sitting in front of your screen, but you still want to check out this content. Our content is now available on a podcast anywhere you can get access to podcasts. It's called Lawfully Good, and it features the same information you'd watch here. So please check us out, and if this is helpful to you and others, please share.
What up, Latanya? Good to see you. How you doing? Thanks for coming by, saying hi. I appreciate you.
Pick a strain, whatever you want, you can get. Indica sativa, never rolling plain Jane. I know some people, if you want drop 50, we ain't gon' cop any. Little mama got plenty, so many strain, puffin' the flame, nothing but dro. One for the brain, one for the body, one for the soul. Running with strange, keeping the party under control. Up, away, flying, how far we gonna go? Smoke team in the building, got 'em is what the deal is.
Captain
Recognize,
K,
coming
man,
with
good to
burns,
see you.
feeling
How
from
you
Filling
doing?
County, boy, got the liquor. Castle was on the fader, Stevie came with the greenery, mixing multiple flavors, whatever you want, homie. Tell me when to say when. How about you and your friends? Come get with me and my friends and keep it real with me, girl. I don't want to pretend like this is a new thing. Really, that's what it's been like.
I know that's
Today,
ubiquitous
we are
success
talking
crew,
about
man.
three
Keeping
things
it
you
hype.
absolutely need to know
Appreciate
before
that guy.
flipping your plants in the flower if you want bigger yields and higher quality buds. Let's get into it, but before we do, this video is sponsored by Real Grow Lab, realgrowlab.com. If Instagram keeps shadow banning your bud pics, then you gotta check out Real Grow Lab. Post all the bud pics you want, whenever you want. No takedowns, just real growers, real plants, and a real community. Join over at Real Grow Lab, start posting today. And come on, High C, let's talk a little flowering, you wanna?
Okay, we're going to be talking
Definitely gotta
about what I
get
need to
people
know
off of
as I
YouTube.
move into flower.
Sure.
Make it easy on me though.
'Cause you
Let's
never
start
know
at
when
what
they
I
gonna
need to
boot
know
you.
right as I flip into flower.
Sure. Flipping in the flower, we're going to assume you're going 18 hours a day of light. I guess you could go 24, but 18 hours a day of light, you have to cut it down to 12 hours a day of light, correct?
Yeah.
So we've just reduced our light hours by a third. We don't want to go into flower where we want beefy buds and lower the light. We want to at least keep that lights at the same level. So what's that mean? It means we got to turn our lights up. So we've got to dial the lights up to get those big fat buds.
DLI.
I tried to not make any abbreviations. DLI is the daily amount of light, the daily light integral. It's the amount of light that the plant can actually absorb efficiently during the day. Now, cannabis can handle a lot of light, even without CO2. So we got to make sure when we dial those lights down, 33%, a third, we've got to dial them up. And don't ask me why math, okay? But if you're at 800, you have to dial them up 50%. You have to dial it up to 1200.
So even though I'm cutting 30% of the light
Yeah.
hours, I need to get that intensity up 50%?
Yes, and please, just mathematics, folks, comment, all right? But it just has to do with the order of it. But yeah, what I mean is the PPFD. If you're at 800 PPFD, to match that reduction in light of 33%, you need to dial it up to 1200 PPFD.
And right away, I mean, it's day one of flower, I just cut my
No.
lights back.
Look at this face. This is the face of a guy that wants to keep you from making the same mistakes that I made. You have to be really careful about this. When you dial up that light intensity, these plants are already getting a lot of light, so you have to let them acclimate and adapt. So do that very slowly over the first 10 days or so. If you went 40, 50 ppfd a day, that should be fine. And a light meter. You need a light meter. If you want to go super intense, super yield maximization, you need to know how much light you're giving these. I looked yesterday, if you're in the United States, you can get a clip-on light meter for your phone for about $40, 60, $70 for a standalone one. So yeah, they cost some money, but what is that, one bottle of whatever the hell you were going to buy? You invest in a light meter?
Okay, I'm going to ask you to be authentic with us.
Okay, let me try.
How many years did you go?
He said, so once you buy the cow bag, skip the other bottles, right? Skip the other bottles. Because, If you got your normal line and then a little CalMag for the extra discrepancies you might see, you can skip a lot of the other stuff and make it through the grow. Correct there. So by the meter, so you can know what you're doing as far as your numbers, because the numbers help you get better results. Yeah, you can figure out what results get the numbers, and then you can shoot for keeping those numbers. Therefore, you should be getting the results. It's automation. It helps with that. So if you a lazy grower, that's why you would want that. Shout out to you being able to be lazy in the future. In the future, it's going to be so easy. I just throw plants in the motherfucking things, and then 3, 4 months later, I harvest. Okay, boom, there you go.
Of growing, cutting back the hours without increasing the intensity.
Almost all of them. Maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago.
It's a pretty easy mistake to make.
And it's pretty intuitive that when you cut the light, you should, dial it up. I had nobody telling me, but Scotty Reel's telling you, man, this one's a no-brainer.
Okay, we learned from your mistake.
Yeah.
All right, number 2, and this also is something I should probably do right when I flip to flower.
Yeah, timing is everything on this. Was another one that I didn't do for, what, I think I've been growing for 30 years. I talked to my wife about that, and I kind of went like that. But yeah, 32 years I've been doing this, and I've gotten some bro science, some snippets, but it never made sense to me, so I didn't do it. But this is that swazing or that defoliation, and shout out to Chad Westport, a buddy of mine. He calls it swazing, not swazing. But this is during day 1 of flower. You cut almost all the leaves off. You pretty much all the leaves, and you're directing the energy. You are getting the plant to refoliate where the budding sites are. And during day 1, or maybe even a little bit before, I'll trim all the larvae off this thing, all the buds that are growing where light and CO2 can't get to it, where those are not going to be top quality buds. If it's not going to get those resources, then I trim them off. And I want to, you want to direct the energy. That energy is coming up from the roots. Let it go to the branches where there's a lot of light and they're getting a lot of access to CO2.
What scares me about this one, and maybe you can help me figure it out, it seems like when I want the plant to start focusing on flowers,
Sure.
I've just cut off all the leaves, which I would think tells the plant to focus on leaves.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive. You gotta understand it's an 8-week or a 9-week flowering cycle. The plant does different things. In the beginning, it is all about bulking. It is all about, I don't want to say vegetative growth, but growing plant material. So when you do that, you need to photosynthesize. You need to take that light and build those buds out of it.
But I just cut off all the photosynthesis machines.
Yes, so what happens, you've got all that power in the roots. They say, hang on, there's a signal here, man. We need to refoliate. And if you've ever defoliated a cannabis plant, it takes about 5 days till it comes back. Day 1, you defoliate. And on day 21, week 3, you defoliate again. And it sounds counterintuitive. I really don't know the deep science behind it.
But you swear by it now.
I've done it. I've done it for the last couple years. I just got nice guy Kenny doing it, and I've done it with CO2, super intense grow. I've done it. His grow is just a stock AC Infinity 4x8 tent. It works. It really does. And we just got to remember these plants, especially the hybrids that we're working with, are just really fast growers. They're just a super intense plant that can handle that. I mean, the key is better airflow and better light penetration. Remember, the CO2 and the light get together and they build plant material. So if you can't get airflow or you can't get light, you're just robbing some energy to make teeny tiny buds that nobody's going to want to enjoy.
Okay, so that's something I do right as I flip to flower.
Yep.
And then day 21, about halfway through flower.
About a third, I guess it would be. But yeah, day 1 and day 21. And the idea is to focus that energy and build those buds, the buds you actually want.
Okay, now we're moving towards the later part of
Sure.
flower. What's one tip that I can do in late flower to make sure I got that great harvest I'm looking for?
Lower your temperatures. As you get closer to bloom, you've got the plants have bulked up already. This is the last 10 days, 2 weeks. The plants have bulked up already. Now what we're trying to do is just get trichomes and then let those trichomes ripen, for lack of a better word. You got to remember, these terpenes start volatilizing off like in the mid 70s Fahrenheit. So if you walk into your room, especially you got a room that's in the mid 80s or low 80s and it smells amazing, well, that amazing smell is in the air and in your nose. It's not on your buds anymore. So especially the last few weeks of flower, really the last 10 days, I would say, of flower, you really want to preserve those terps. Like I said, it's not about bulking and building photosynthesizing plant material anymore. Most of those trichomes are there, and we're just trying to get them to mature or to ripen without losing all those terpenes and cannabinoids. Oh, and one more thing about reducing temperatures late, that is when the bud molds love to show up. So that hot, humid climate, they love, lower them temps down, slow everything down, including those molds and pathogens.
Oh man, that sucks when you get all the way to flower, you're ready to take it down, and then you notice there's some mold.
Oh, shout out to my buddy, the dude that grew a huge outdoor crop, and when he cut it down, that's when he noticed it. I mean, that's disappointment, man.
You gotta be careful.
Yeah, those are just my top 3 things I focus on when flipping the flower. But what about you? What's the one thing you changed during the flower that makes the biggest difference in your grow? Come on, drop it in the comments. And if you dug this video, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, share this one with another grower you know. And come on, check out the other couple videos YouTube's recommending. High C says you will dig them.
Of course, y'all know to go check out the big homie at DJ Is. Get y'all some non-copyrighted music to use in your backgrounds. Appreciate him for doing that for your boy. You dig? Yeah, he'll do it for you too. Just let him know you appreciate it though. You know what I mean?
Remember me when you're far away. I'll always have a place for you to stay. In the garden, by the door, in the bedroom, on the floor. Remember me when you're far away. I'll always have a place for you to stay. In the middle of the night, I'm gonna be there till the morning light.
Of course, it is Sunday. Y'all need to go vibe out with us at the Green Table Podcast tonight. We'll be over there doing our thing. You'll see him moderating. Yeah. Make his ass work, right?
Remember me when you're far away. I'll always have a place for you to stay. In the garden, by the door, in the bedroom, on the floor. Remember me when you're far away. I'll always have a place for you to stay. In the middle of the night, I'm gonna be there till the morning light. Run
Hey everyone, how is everybody's weekend going? Welcome into our latest TDR Cannabis in 5. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Good week. We had a good week, I
Now we
thought.
gotta have
Yes, we
Shad
saw the
somewhere in
great
our
tape on
video.
Thursday. Yes, a little bit of pullback on
Appreciate this guy
Friday.
for
But
working
hey,
as hard
going
as
into
he
next
does.
week, let's see how this moves. But clearly, you can see a lot of momentum
Slap
building
putting
on the
out
equity
content,
side of the
right?
cannabis industry right now as more attention is circulating around this industry. A lot of movement and a lot of changes on the horizon, including a new story reported by Marijuana Moment involving lawmakers who are now pushing the IRS and the U.S. Treasury Department to issue prompt tax guidance for marijuana businesses following the Trump administration's federal rescheduling action. And while this may sound like a technical tax story on the surface, the reality is that this could have a significant impact on the profitability of the cannabis industry and the companies across the U.S. So right now, a bipartisan group of members of Congress, they recently sent a letter to federal officials urging them to move quickly and provide clarity on how cannabis businesses should be treated under the new tax code now that certain state licensed medical operations, marijuana operations, have been moved from Schedule 1 to now Schedule 3. So according to new lawmakers, businesses, they need certainty as they prepare for financial statements, tax filings, and long-term operating plans. So you can see where this is going. It's getting louder because when we look back for years, one of the biggest challenges facing legal cannabis operators, as we know, has been Section 280E of the Internal Revenue Code. And if you've watched this channel for a good length of time, you've heard me say a lot and talk about a lot about 280E because cannabis, as we know, who have been following this, was federally classified as a Schedule 1 controlled substance where operators were prohibited from deducting many ordinary business expenses. Things like payroll, rent, marketing expenses, also administrative costs, and other everyday business expenditures often could not be deducted the way they are in virtually every other industry. And as a result, many cannabis companies have faced exponentially high effective tax rates, which creates a major burden on profitability and cash flow. And that is why so many executives and investors have long argued that relief from 280E could be one of the most meaningful financial catalysts that the industry has ever seen. Yeah, ever seen. So now, following the Trump administration's rescheduling order back in April, state licensed medical cannabis businesses may no longer be subject to those same restrictions, especially since it's been reclassified. Treasury and the IRS have already confirmed that new tax guidance is indeed coming, but companies are still waiting to learn exactly how the rules will be applied. So really, that's where some uncertainty then begins, because businesses, they want answers to several key questions here. And how quickly will the tax changes actually take effect? That's another big one. So like, will there be transition rules? Will any tax relief apply retroactively? And really, how will companies that operate both medical and adult use businesses be treated under the new framework? But that's why the June 29th hearing is even more telling. But these details right now, they remain unclear, which is exactly why lawmakers are calling for faster guidance from regulators. And what's particularly interesting is that Treasury has already suggested that businesses could potentially receive relief for an entire taxable year that includes the effective date of rescheduling, rather than only for the period after federal order actually took effect. So if that interpretation ultimately holds, it's going to be extremely favorable for qualifying operators. So when you think about this, and before you get too excited, it's important to understand that this is not a complete solution for the entire cannabis industry right now. The federal rescheduling action in primary applies to state licensed medical cannabis operations. Adult use cannabis businesses, they still face significant uncertainty, and broader federal legalization has not occurred. Banking reform, interstate commerce, and many other challenges are still facing the industry, and they remain unresolved. And that's why I say, again, June 29th is going to be massive, and once we get feedback post July 15th, and if adult use does indeed move to Schedule 3, then we are off and running, everyone. Because I believe soon after that, you'll see uplisting announced, you'll probably have guidance from U.S. Treasury in FinCEN language. So yeah, these are the things that could be falling into place here in the next 1 to 2 to 3 months. That is why the chatter around cannabis is getting loud. You can see lawmakers now, they're trying to get some clarity because they want to get ahead of this. Because if cannabis companies are ultimately allowed to deduct the same ordinary business expenses as most other industries, it's going to significantly improve earnings, strengthen cash flow, and provide operators with more capital to invest in growth initiatives. And that's why this story indeed deserves attention. Look, the rescheduling headlines, that is the starting gun. But now the industry is entering the implementation phase. And as we've said many times on this channel, the details often matter more than just the headlines itself, but you can bet this stuff is being talked about behind the scenes. So we will continue to monitor any guidance from the IRS and Treasury, because the decisions made over the coming weeks and months, they could have a direct impact. Yes, they will have an impact on cannabis companies financially and potentially on cannabis stock valuations as well. So that's it for our latest TDR Cannabis in 5. Let us know what you think about the overall chatter, the latest with lawmakers getting some direction from the IRS and everything else that's going on. This is getting louder, don't you think? Let me know. Leave your comments below. Love to get your feedback. And as usual, make sure to like, subscribe, smash on that bell for all notifications, and stay connected with us here at TDR. That's it for now. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Back here tomorrow for a weekly recap. Make sure to log on. Until then, enjoy your day, and I'll see you
Shout out
next
to the
one. Thanks
liquor
again for
store
watching,
owners
everyone.
that's going to be popping up now. And like I already said, we'll be checking these guys out tonight on the Green Table Podcast. They got music and gardening and growing advice. So, that's what we do. Slap out, right?
Why they so mad? Cause they see me on the come up, I'm just getting started, I didn't even get in my bag. Man, I won't think with you niggas, but y'all steady hating, don't talk about popping no tags. I spend the block cause I'm patient, come back in the year, and that check that you wrote to get cash. You wanna smoke with the demon, well now you done seen it, I hope that you why they so mad. Cause they see me on the come up, I'm just getting started, I didn't even get in my bag. Man, I won't think with you niggas, but y'all steady hating, don't talk about popping no tags. I spend the block cause I'm patient, come back in the year, and that check that you wrote to get cash. You wanna smoke with the demon, well now you done seen it, I hope that you ready to clash. Yeah. Graduated from the streets at the top of my class. You want the world and let's get it. I told you I live it, all you had to do is just ask. I know before I was chilling, just trying to get millions. Now all of that shit in the past. I take it up to the ceiling, however you willing. Just so that you ready for class. Run down, I do this shit with no mask. If they won't call it a race, we gon' lap them. Cry like a baby when you get back at them. They here for the now, but they never gon' last. Why? Slow through my life like a turtle, but you get too close and I'm ready to snap. Rules to the game and they all universal. If you break a rule, then you never come back. Living my life, I'm just chilling. Big plate, I'm gonna eat, they gonna eat out the trash. Once they find out you a clown, gotta leave out of town and you never come back. I sit around many counters, I'm loving the sound that it make when they get to a stack. And I show nothing but love, but if you a hater, then fuck ya, I know I so mad. Cause they see me on the come up, I'm just getting started, I didn't even get in my bag. Man, I won't think with you niggas, but y'all steady hating, don't talk about popping no tags. I spend the block cause I'm patient, come back in the year, and that check that you wrote to get cash. You wanna smoke with the demon, well now you done seen it, I hope that you ready so mad. Cause they see me on the come up, I'm just getting started, I didn't even get in my bag. Man, I won't think with you niggas, but y'all steady hating, don't talk about popping no tags. I spend the block cause I'm patient, come back in the year, and that check that you wrote to get cash. You wanna smoke with the demon, well now you done seen it, I hope that you ready to clash.
100K play, honey bun K. You don't want smoke with this right here. Know what you say. Swing by your way. Get caught in my headlights like, yeah, watch what you say. Don't become prey. Internet niggas is so damn weird. I'm from the Bay. He from upstate. Told you before that this all yeah. So sick, no suit. Big business, no suit. Sedan truck, no coupe. Long leg room, big shoes. Mirror crop my move. All my ops is food. All my ops was fools. Hard cold like ice cubes. Always woke, no snooze. All this smoke, no booze. All good days, no blues. Except for what I got in pocket, cause you know I'm gon' get it. Leave me alone with your home. Fuses get blown, cause I'm gonna grow in it. I stay with them plans, you stay with them Zans, so you might be gone in 4 minutes. Don't blame me for all of your goals unachieved, you just a whole nigga.
Why they so mad? Cause they see me on the come up, I'm just getting started, I didn't even get in my bag. Man, I won't think with you niggas, but y'all steady hating, don't talk about popping no tags. I spend the block cause I'm patient, come back in the year, and that check that you wrote to get cash. You wanna smoke with the demon, well now you done seen it, I hope that you ready so mad. Cause they see me on the come up, I'm just getting started, I didn't even get in my bag. Man, I won't think with you niggas, but y'all steady hating, don't talk about popping no tags.
Somebody did me a favor in my mind. Somebody responsible is behind the wheel. Appreciate that.
I hope that you ready to clash.
Appreciate that.
The industry claims another victim. Or does it? Ladies and gentlemen, earlier this week, Shane from MyGrow posted a video or a short on his YouTube channel that broke down that he's leaving the industry. He's getting out of the game. And this was the video.
Hey there, guys. Some bad news today. I am shutting down the business, shutting down MyGrow. It's been 10 years. It's been great while it lasted. Really enjoyed it. And really appreciated all your support. But the market being what it is, Demand is way down the last few years, and prices are coming down continuously. And the Chinese are doing a great job themselves of making and selling the lights, and it just hasn't been viable to compete really. So I had a great run, really enjoyed it. Great community, great chat and banter and everything on the channel always, so really appreciative of that. Really good customers, always really considerate, and just really enjoyed the last 10 years. It's been great fun. Moving on to other things. Business in the meantime, it'll be shut from today. Been running a sale, just selling off the remaining stock the last couple of months, and that is in order to pay off creditors. So all the suppliers will be paid off by agreement, on whatever debt there is. So I've cleared that up as of today. All the orders have been shipped as of today, and the only remaining real downside is for warranty claims, which unfortunately the premise is going to be empty. There's nowhere to return them to. If there's a problem and there's no funds and no equipment to replace them if equipment is faulty, so I'm really sorry about that. Any consolation, the array series is very reliable, less than 0.5% failure rate overall over 3 years, so hope very few of you will be affected, but a big regret. I'm really sorry that couldn't help you out if you're seeing this and you have an issue. So thanks very much again. Website will stay up just with messages. There's nobody answering the emails, are gone. As I said, thanks again. Take care.
My first comment is, it's amazing how many times a guy can chew something with nothing in his mouth. I posted on that video that I did wish him well, and I thanked him for the laughs that we had in person.
Fucking pigeons, man, talking this shit,
the FTS crew. And with that bias aside,
said,
I kind of wanted to mention a few things in that video. If you guys recall, we covered a video, or we covered
cocaine,
this story when it broke. Thomas
break it down, chew it up.
Calling out Shane for fabricating the specs of his products, claiming that there were spectrums on his lights that simply were not there, that the product he advertised was not the product that people were getting. And Thomas from GML made a post about this and called him out. And in return, Shane kind of made a post saying, yeah, you know what, there was some problems there. He somewhat owned up to it, but mentioned that people going through warranties were going to have an issue. Anyone who ordered that light with the intent of having a particular spectrum that wasn't there were kind of SOL. Since then, there hasn't been many posts from Shane on MyGrow. There has been a few, but there hasn't been many. And so it kind of leads me to pose the question as to whether or not it was the, quote, market that killed this product, or if it was the fact that he was selling a light that was different than what he was advertising. I tried to warn you about this guy. I feel bad for all the people that do not have a warranty. And as you mentioned, if you had warranty, it doesn't matter. And this was a comment on the post. Now, the question that you have to ask is, did the market really take a turn, or was it the fact that there was a distrust or a disconnect between MyGrow and the community? He's absolutely right in regards to Asia is doing a great job. China in particular is doing a great job at manufacturing lights.
I know where to throw the blame.
Affordable and cheap price. So having LEDs,
we'll just step out of the game while I got some money.
Sourced in America,
I'm gonna break even and just call it a day. He said,
not necessarily difficult, but expensive. It makes it difficult.
Then in 10 years he can sell the company.
Brands, your Mars, Spider Farmer,
as an age court.
It makes it difficult
so that would be the play right there. You see what I'm saying? Shouts out to the Edge corporations. He knows the actual way to make more money off his business now is by selling it, probably.
Very small.
Yeah,
it's not
somebody
the way
wants
it was 10 years ago. You have.
I got a new
like
product line that I can push. I just buy
like
the
GML,
company. You see what I'm saying? Buy the company.
You have people that are really
introduce a new good light and be right back in the game, right?
In a way way that wasn't happening before. It wasn't even my show.
Yeah, just get rid of him at
forward the
this point because
information
he's the
about
one people
Shane
don't
and
like
Micro.
because
That was
he
Thomas
fucked
and
up
GML.
already
Why?
publicly.
Well, because he
So,
produces LEDs.
that's how that
didn't
goes.
quite believe the numbers that he was getting or hearing from Micro.
I know Rumble mad at me because they can't hear shit. I gotta redo my fucking voice by fucking hitting pause and talking loudly, going through my spectrum over there so they can hear me on Rumble. Shout out to the Rumble replay gang. If y'all ain't watching it on Rumble, I don't know what you're doing. Yeah, you gotta see it from the studio perspective. You know how they say we gotta be in the studio. I invite you to come see.
Or Shane in particular, so bought a light and tested himself. Turned out he was right. So that's what led to the story. And then, of course, you have people talking about it, rightfully so. These things need to be talked about. And with a community today where everyone's so tight knit, if you think that my community doesn't watch the next guy's community or the next guy's community or this guy, of course they do. Of course they do. Everybody watches a little bit of everyone. Everyone buys a little bit of this, a little bit of that, some of this, some of that. You know, you hit yourself up with some stash nutrients, and then you go and grab yourself some Mephisto genetics. I've been just saying it. I'm just throwing it out there because it's a blend, right? It's like you blend things up. You're not necessarily going to have stash nutrients. You're not necessarily going to have plus the stash genetics or swank genetics on top of it, whatever. You know what I mean? So it's like there's each community kind of intermingles and talks to each other. So it's only a matter of time before, and I mean this, before those who are trying to exploit and take advantage of the community are either A, exposed and kind of driven out, or they just produce a product that just is that shitty overall that it just doesn't, their reputation just folds. I don't know which way it's going to go. However, the reality is that, I guess, don't keep too many skeletons in your closet. Try not to dissuade or confuse, mislead this community, because we'll figure it out. The internet exists, but that's my opinion, and I'm curious what you guys think. Please feel free to comment.
Shouts out to pigeons, man.
I'm lonely sometimes because I can't hang with everybody. Yeah, man. I have morals. I believe in certain things. Certain things ain't gonna happen around me. I told they was gossiping about somebody and talking about what some artist had done. And I said, were you there? And they said, yeah. I said, well, did they feel comfortable enough to do that kind of stuff around you? Because they wouldn't have done that around me. So that also says something about you. Yes, sir. If you were there and it went down and you did nothing, that tells me about you.
Of course, David Banner dropping some facts. David Banner. You know the tag. Shouts out to the
Nearly
J
2 million
Jordan.
people
He just
drink
went live.
alcohol
Go check him
regularly,
out.
and hundreds of millions use cannabis products. And these two substances are often compared to each other as if they're doing the same thing inside your body. People will sometimes debate which one is better and which one is worse. But the reality is, although they share a few similarities, alcohol and THC affect your physiology in very different ways. So today, with the help of the bodies in the lab, we're going to compare alcohol and THC head to head. We'll break down how each one gets absorbed, what they do to your brain and other organs, why one can cause blackouts while the other gives the munchies.
Hopefully y'all wasn't eating
And
breakfast.
yes, we'll also get into the negative effects of each, including addiction and
my
even
guy's showing
cancer
actual
risk.
body parts.
It's going to be a mind-altering one. So let's jump into this anatomical and physiological awesomeness. Alcohol, also known as ethanol, is a small molecule that can move easily through both the watery environments of your body and across cell membranes, which allows it to spread quickly throughout your bloodstream and into your brain. THC, short for tetrahydrocannabinol, is highly fat soluble, which means it tends to accumulate in fatty tissues, including the brain, and sticks around much longer. But one of the biggest differences between these two substances starts with how they enter your body. When you drink alcohol, it travels down the esophagus and into the stomach, where about 10 to 20% of that alcohol is absorbed directly through the stomach lining that you can see here. The rest moves into the small intestine, where most of the absorption occurs. If your stomach is empty, your blood alcohol levels can peak in about 30 to 60 minutes. If you've eaten, especially fats or proteins, that process slows down and can take closer to 1 to 3 hours. THC works differently because it depends on how you bring it into the body. If it's inhaled, it moves from the lungs and into the bloodstream within minutes. But if it's eaten, like with an edible, it has to go through the digestive tract and then to the liver before entering circulation, which makes the onset much slower. And you'll often hear that edibles don't just take longer to kick in, they also tend to hit harder and last longer. One of the main reasons for this is that in the liver, THC is converted into a compound called 11-hydroxy-THC, which actually is more potent and contributes to those stronger, longer-lasting effects. Whereas if you inhale it, it doesn't go directly to your liver. It can pass through multiple tissues before eventually getting there. So already we see a key difference. Alcohol has a single, fairly predictable route of absorption, while THC is highly route dependent and can be much more prolonged, especially when consumed as an edible. Now, once these substances enter your bloodstream, they both make their way to your brain. But what they do once they get there is very different. Alcohol is what we call a central nervous system depressant. It enhances the effects of GABA, which is an inhibitory neurotransmitter, and at the same time suppresses glutamate, which is excitatory. So the overall result is that brain activity slows down. In the prefrontal cortex, this leads to decreased judgment and impulse control, which is why people often say and do things with alcohol that they might not normally do. In the hippocampus, it disrupts memory formation. In the cerebellum, it affects coordination and balance. And at higher doses, alcohol can even begin to suppress the brain stem, which controls breathing and heart rate. And this is what can make alcohol poisoning so dangerous. THC, on the other hand, works through your endocannabinoid system. It binds to CB1 receptors located throughout the brain and alters how neurons communicate with each other. Instead of broadly slowing everything down, it changes how signals are processed and transmitted. In the hypothalamus, which you can see here, it alters how hunger signals are regulated, which contributes to the classic munchies. In other areas of the brain, it influences dopamine and endorphin pathways, which can lead to relaxation or euphoria. But in some individuals, it can lead to anxiety or even
When your body
paranoia.
reminds you,
So a
you know,
way
you are
can think
kind of
about
hungry.
this is that alcohol turns down the volume
We
of
can
the
eat
brain,
more. We
while
can eat more.
THC changes the signal itself. Now, even though both of these substances affect the brain, the way they impact memory and cognition feels very different in real life. With alcohol, as doses increase, the brain can actually lose the ability to form new memories altogether. This is what leads to blackouts, where a person may be awake, talking and interacting, but later has no memory of what happened. THC doesn't shut memory formation down in the same way, but it does alter or interfere with how information is processed and organized. This can make it harder to focus, follow conversations, or keep track of what you were just thinking about. So people often describe things like losing their train of thought, forgetting what they were about to say, or feeling mentally foggy. So the key distinction here is that alcohol can suppress memory formation, while THC tends to distort cognitive processing. Now, if we zoom out from the brain and look at the rest of the body, both of these substances affect your cardiovascular system, but not in the exact same way. Alcohol causes your blood vessels to dilate, which can temporarily lower your blood pressure. In response, your body may increase your heart rate slightly to help maintain circulation. THC also causes vasodilation, but it tends to produce a more noticeable and consistent increase in heart rate, which is why some people become very aware of their heartbeat shortly after using it. And this helps explain one of the most recognizable effects of THC: red eyes. When the small blood vessels in your eyes dilate, more blood flows through them, giving that classic red appearance. Now, technically, alcohol can also cause some dilation of blood vessels in the eyes, but it's usually much less noticeable. THC has a more direct effect on receptors in the eye, which makes that redness much more pronounced and consistent. Then there's dry mouth. That's largely an effect of THC. Your salivary glands, one of which you can see on this sagittal head dissection, contain cannabinoid receptors. And when THC binds to them, it reduces saliva production. So that dry mouth feeling isn't just dehydration, it's your salivary glands actually producing less saliva. And that naturally leads us into appetite. As we already mentioned, THC has a direct effect on how your brain regulates hunger. It interacts with areas of the brain that are involved with hunger, such as the hypothalamus, and it alters normal satiety signaling, essentially making food seem more rewarding and harder to resist. That's why people often experience the classic munchies, where they feel hungry even if they've recently eaten. Alcohol can increase appetite, but the mechanism is different. Instead of directly driving hunger signals, alcohol tends to lower inhibitions. So people may eat more, not necessarily because they're physiologically hungry, but because they care less about how much they're eating or what they're eating. So while both substances can lead to increased food intake, THC is more likely to drive a true increase in hunger signaling, whereas alcohol is more like, meh, I guess I'll eat this. And with all this talk about certain substances altering brain physiology, let's talk about some other substances that can help the brain perform at its best. Now, it's not really a secret that creatine can improve exercise performance, but more and more research is showing that higher doses of creatine can help improve cognitive function, mental fatigue, and even sleep deprivation. Something else that is essential for brain function is electrolytes. Like, I'll often ask my students how they think neurons conduct electrical impulses, and the answer is they use electrolytes to create charge gradients. And so electrolyte balance and hydration are essential for proper neuron function. And this is where it creates New Daily Stack comes in. This daily stack combines their creatine gummies with their creatine and electrolytes in one system, giving you two different formats that make it easy to stay consistent. You can mix a stick pack in the morning for hydration and energy support, which gives you 5 grams of creatine plus the electrolytes. And then what I like to do is use the gummies later in the day, specifically right after a workout. And I do this for 2 reasons. 1, I get 5 more grams of creatine, and 2, the gummies also have some carbohydrates, which can help contribute to replenishing the glycogen stores that I just depleted during the workout. And with how simple this stack is, it is easy to stay consistent. Because with creatine, taking it regularly is what actually matters, so that you can build up your creatine stores in your cells. And having multiple formats that are travel ready, easy to take, and require no prep makes it a lot easier to not miss a day. So if you're interested, go to trycrate.co/humananatomy and use our code humananatomy to get 30% off your first order. That link will also be in the description below. And now, let's get back to the video. Now, if we shift our focus to long-term effects, this is where alcohol and THC begin to separate even more. With alcohol, the effects tend to show up as direct progressive damage to organs over time. The liver is the primary side of this, since it's responsible for metabolizing alcohol. As alcohol is broken down, it forms acetaldehyde, which is actually more toxic than the alcohol itself, and can trigger inflammation and oxidative stress. Over time, this can lead to fat accumulation in the liver, inflammation, scar tissue formation, and eventually more advanced conditions like fibrosis and cirrhosis, where the structure and function of the liver becomes significantly impaired. Alcohol can also affect other organs, including the pancreas that you can see here, as well as the inside lining of the stomach, contributing to conditions like pancreatitis and gastritis. THC is also processed by the liver, but it does not produce the same toxic metabolites or lead to the same progressive breakdown of organ structure at typical doses. Instead, many of its long-term effects are related more to how the brain and body function, especially with repeated or heavy use. Over time, this can lead to more persistent changes in memory, attention, and learning, along with the development of tolerance, meaning you need more to achieve the same effect. With heavier or more frequent use, some individuals may also experience increased anxiety, mood changes, or even a reduced ability to feel motivated or engaged. And while some people use THC to try to manage anxiety or depression, others may actually notice those symptoms becoming more pronounced over time. And it's also worth noting that THC use has increased over the years, not just in frequency, but in potency. In the 1990s, typical THC content was around 3 to 5%, whereas more recent cannabis flowers can range from 10 to 20% or more, which can amplify many of these effects, especially with frequent use. That said, some of THC's effects also depend on how it's used. For example, when cannabis is smoked, the lungs are exposed to combustion byproducts, which can lead to irritation and inflammation over time. And with vaping, especially with products from informal or unregulated sources, certain additives like vitamin E acetate have been linked to a condition known as EVALI, or e-cigarette or vaping use associated lung injury. So while both substances can have long-term effects on the body, alcohol is more strongly associated with direct progressive damage to organ structure, whereas THC's effects tend to be more functional or dependent on the route of use. Another important difference between these two substances is their relationship to cancer risk. Alcohol is classified as a carcinogen. It has been linked to an increased risk of several types of cancer. Liver cancer is obviously going to be one of the most well-known, but it is also linked to cancers of the mouth, esophagus, breast, and colon. One of the main reasons for this is the production of acetaldehyde during alcohol metabolism, which can damage DNA and contribute to cancer development. Chronic inflammation and oxidative stress also play a role, and organizations like the World Health Organization emphasize that there is no completely risk-free level of alcohol consumption when it comes to long-term health, and that even moderate intake can contribute to cancer risk over time. THC and cannabis are more complex. When cannabis is smoked, it does expose the lungs, again, to those combustion byproducts, which can irritate the respiratory system. However, the link between cannabis use and cancer, especially compared to substances like tobacco, is less clear and not as strongly established. When it comes to THC itself, particularly in non-smoked forms like edibles, there is currently no strong evidence showing that it directly causes cancer at typical levels of use. Some compounds in cannabis are even being studied for potential anti-cancer properties in lab settings, but that's very different from saying cannabis prevents cancer in real-world use. So the key takeaway here is that alcohol has a well-established and dose-dependent relationship with cancer risk, whereas THC's relationship to cancer is less clear and depends more on how it's used. Another important difference between these two substances is their potential for tolerance, dependence, and addiction. With alcohol, repeated use can lead to tolerance, meaning a person needs to consume more to achieve the same effect. Over time, this can progress to physical dependence, where the body begins to rely on alcohol to function normally. And this is where alcohol becomes particularly dangerous, because withdrawal can be severe and even life-threatening, with symptoms ranging from tremors and anxiety all the way up to seizures in more extreme cases. THC can also lead to tolerance and dependence, but the pathway can be different. With repeated use, the brain can become less responsive to its effects, which can lead people to use higher amounts over time. Some individuals may also develop what's known as cannabis use disorder, where use becomes more habitual or difficult to control. When people stop using THC after regular use, they can experience withdrawal symptoms such as irritability, sleep disturbances, reduced appetite, and mood changes. And although those symptoms are real, they are typically less severe and not considered medically dangerous in the same way that alcohol withdrawal can be. So when you compare alcohol and THC, it's not as simple as asking which one is better or which one is worse. They're doing fundamentally different things inside your body. Again, alcohol slows brain activity and over time is more likely to cause direct progressive damage to the organs, especially the liver, and has a clear relationship with cancer risk. THC, on the other hand, changes how signals are processed in the brain and tends to have effects that are more functional rather than structural. But with repeated or heavy use, those changes can still have real consequences, including effects on memory, attention, learning, and even anxiety. Now, this video was not an indictment on anyone that uses these substances, so hopefully the tone of the video didn't portray that. It was to give you as much scientific information as possible so that you could make your own informed decisions. And so I hope we accomplished that with this video. And thank you for watching and supporting the channel as always, and we'll see you in the next one.
I'm driving, I like the smoke when I'm vibing. I hit the lake where it's quiet. It feels like I'm on an island. I turn the Tuesday to Friday in one of my private little hideaways. You can come in this bitch and smoke and have your fun, but don't violate. Diamonds on the table, the stallions out of the stable. You best be minding your manners. Anything you say could be fatal. I can't be signing no lease. I got a home where I sleep. Everything I say from the heart, and I never be wrong when I speak. Can't run away from my problem. They showing the sign that I'm weak. I'm longer than Giannis. You can't get away from my
Shouts out to that new juvenile. That shit slapping.
I'm a legend already, no need to wait for the funeral. They say the roof is on fire, I feel like somebody lying. It can't be true, cause ain't no roof on top the coupe that I'm riding in. Though I grew up in violence, I had unlimited knowledge. I had them old niggas schooling me like a freshman in college. I hope I found my homie, I caught him going through my garbage. He said he looking for product, and it's in the streets that I got it. I seen a whole lot of trouble, I seen a whole lot of bodies. Been through a whole lot of drama, now I'm out of the hide.
He said he was going through my trash, talk about some bricks.
So come November, everything
was
could be
looking
bad.
for the evidence.
Hemp, THCA, gummy seeds, topicals, lotions, drinks,
He was looking for the evidence in the garbage. Like, nigga, I know you got some fucking bricks.
And that is what's happening with the federal
Nah.
THC
This the house evidence, nigga. You might see some weed plants in the trash,
November
but
2026. Because the truth is, this ban will
we
hurt
ain't moving
consumers,
cocaine.
businesses, and state economies across America, from California to New York and everywhere in between. And turns out now, there are lawmakers fighting to stop the ban. And surprisingly, interestingly enough, a group of Republicans are working to block the ban from coming into force.
As part of the deal that helped bring the government shutdown to an end, Congress has approved a federal ban now on hemp products containing high levels of THC. The ban criminalizes most consumable hemp products and closes a loophole from a 2018 farm bill that allowed the hemp industry to take off without federal regulations. Supporters say it protects communities from potent THC, but opponents warn that this could hurt this state's $8 billion hemp industry.
Now, if you guys recall, at the end of last year, there was a federal government shutdown. Now, this was the longest government shutdown in recorded history, and in the bill to reopen the government, they snuck in a federal THC hemp ban. And as you guys know, there were a lot of issues surrounding the reopening of the government, but that was not one of them. But Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell had a bee in his bonnet about this hemp issue and really forced the ban. And with the federal government being shut down for such a long time, federal workers not being paid, TSA agents and workers being furloughed, it was a massive problem. And let's be real, they were never going to block any proposed bill to reopen the government simply to save the hemp industry.
The spending bill also included a surprise ban on hemp products with any intoxicating effect. So in Texas, that industry is worth $5.5 billion and employs more than 50,000 people. The law limits THC to trace, non-intoxicating levels, impacting popular Delta 8 edibles, beverages, and smokables.
And debating those future regulations is exactly what we're doing. And I'm going to show you guys a few samples of those proposed regulations. But what's really interesting about this whole thing is that under the 2018 Farm Bill, a lot of these products were made legal at the federal level. But of course, lawmakers who drafted that Farm Bill, including Senator Mitch McConnell, they were not fully aware of the implications of that bill. And that all spouts from the clear as day fact that they have no real understanding about this plant and how it functions. Now, no matter where you stand on this whole government shutdown issue, whether you think it's the Republicans' fault or whether you think it was a Democrat shutdown, the truth is that this hemp ban was slipped in there. And now it's an issue that we all got to deal with. Now, thankfully, most lawmakers have realized that this is an issue that they're on the losing side of. In particular, since most Americans are in favor of legalization. And if we look at the pushback across other states that have tried to ban these hemp products, the pushback has been massive. Just think of Texas as a great example. So lawmakers seeing that are now trying to prevent recriminalization of these products later this year. As according to this article, GOP lawmakers have filed amendments to prevent federal recriminalization of these hemp products later this year. Now, this does face an uphill battle, but it's not impossible. As according to this, Congress is unlikely to prevent a new federal ban on THC hemp products this year. And what makes it even more interesting is that even the Republicans are fighting against this ban. As according to this, 3 Republican members of Congress have filed separate amendments to large-scale agricultural legislation that would prevent a scheduled federal ban on hemp products from taking effect in November. Now, these are 3 distinct proposals. One from Representative Andy Barr, and that will keep many hemp products legal that are currently set to be recriminalized later this year. Now, the second amendment, and this is really important, this is from Representative Russell Fry out of South Carolina, and this will simply delay the planned recriminalization for a period of 2 years. Now, this is important because it'll give lawmakers a chance to really negotiate, go back to the table, and revisit the definition of hemp and what's actually banned under this new legislation. Now, there's also a third measure from Representative James Comer, and in addition to these, Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky has also introduced another bill which will push state control over federal regulation. Now, this is really interesting because it'll give the states back the power when it comes to regulating these hemp products. Check it out.
Tonight, new details about what could be coming for the hemp industry in Kentucky. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul says he's drafting a bill.
Now, that bill would counteract a federal hemp ban written into law this month. Paul's bill would give the power back to the states to regulate the hemp industry.
Senator Paul says at least 95% of the hemp industry falls under these regulations.
Hemp businesses across Kentucky are scrambling to figure out how they'll be able to conduct business with a federal hemp ban.
Kentucky's hemp industry remains on the verge of a complete shutdown. U.S. Senator Rand Paul also working to exempt the states out of a federal hemp ban.
He hopes his bipartisan bill is enough to keep Kentucky's hemp farmers and consumers happy.
U.S. Senator Rand Paul says instead of banning hemp products, the federal government should allow this place, Kentucky State Capitol, to regulate it. You see, Kentucky's hemp farmers currently don't know what will happen with their crop. A rule change passed by Congress essentially bans all hemp products nationwide because it drops the THC levels down so low that it essentially makes all hemp products illegal. And that's bad news for Kentucky's growing hemp industry, an industry that U.S. Senator Rand Paul says many people rely on.
Many people take these products for sleep, for anxiety, and compared to prescription medicine, it would be less expensive, but also many people think that there are advantages to hemp over taking pharmaceutical products for sleep.
So Paul has suggested an alternative regulatory idea. He has proposed the bipartisan Hemp Safety Enforcement Act, which allows states that have hemp regulations in place to avoid the federal ban. And Kentucky's legislature did put hemp regulations into place.
Kentucky's law allows for hemp. You have to be 21. It regulates how much THC can be in the hemp products. And I think it's a reasonable approach to this.
Paul says Kentucky's regulations and laws already ban the bad stuff, the stuff that has too much THC in it. So the state should be allowed to continue regulating hemp products all on its own. Now that federal hemp ban goes into effect this November, so Senator Paul is hopeful that he can get something done before it's too late.
Now, there are a lot of issues with this federal THC hemp ban that was snuck into that bill to reopen the government. In particular, this was made without a hearing, and this affects the people. And now, what we're seeing is lawmakers doing just that, scrambling, trying to figure out ways to stop this from going into force. And just a couple weeks ago, Representative James Comer, who introduced one of these bills to actually block the ban, he spoke on this very issue, and this is what he had to say. Listen.
Congressman James Comer appeared to back an amendment that could weaken a proposed crackdown on intoxicating hemp products like Delta 8, Delta 10, and THCA flower. The legislation aims to close the loophole from the 2018 Farm Bill that allowed these products to flourish.
I'm here today to speak in strong support of my amendment to the Farm, Food, and National Security Act of 2026, which would protect American farmers, support the thousands of jobs in the hemp industry, and people who use and rely on these products. Last November, language included in appropriations legislation gave Congress 1 year to develop a new framework for hemp products before they become federally controlled substances. 6 months later, it is clear Congress needs more time to pass legislation that protects jobs, eliminates bad actors, standardizes labeling, and requires third-party testing. My amendment would provide Congress another year until November 2027 to develop this solution. The hemp industry is facing significant challenges and growing uncertainty, and it is long past time for Congress to provide farmers and business owners with the clarity they need to succeed. This uncertainty is already having a negative effect, and it is impacting real people, real jobs, and real communities across the country, particularly in rural America. The hemp industry's impact in my home state of Kentucky and nationwide is substantial. When I served as Kentucky's Commissioner of Agriculture, Kentucky was the very first state to legally grow hemp. Today, hemp supports 320,000 American jobs, generates $28.4 billion in market activity, and contributes $1.5 billion in state tax revenue. Hemp offers farmers the opportunity to diversify, innovate, and remain competitive in an evolving agriculture economy. Hemp is a major crop for Kentucky farmers. Nearly every farmer I know who grew hemp last year was a former tobacco farmer. That's why when I was Ag Commissioner, we pushed to be the first state to legalize hemp. It was an opportunity to diversify out of tobacco into a new crop. The 2018 Farm Bill laid the foundation for the hemp industry's growth over the last few years. As a member of the Conference Committee for the final bill in 2018, I made it a priority to be one of hemp's strongest advocates during those negotiations. As a result, the 2018 Farm Bill unleashed the industry and supported jobs, small businesses, and entrepreneurs across the country. Congress must act now to provide certainty for business owners and confidence for consumers. In September, I led a bipartisan letter to Speaker Johnson warning of the repercussions that adoption of language effectively banning certain hemp products would have on America's farmers. That letter was signed by 27 of our colleagues, 13 Republicans and 14 Democrats. underlining the bipartisan support for hemp farmers and industry.
So this issue is bipartisan. We're seeing members on both sides of the aisle push back against this federal hemp ban. But what's really interesting is that just recently we're seeing a renewed push from the Republicans when traditionally the Republicans are associated with prohibition. So it's really refreshing to see that both conservative Republicans and liberal Democrats are both coming together when it comes to this issue. Now the crazy thing is that this ban is so wide that it'll affect tons of products, from seeds to lotions, gummies and seltzers, THCA hemp, and a whole lot more. And I'm going to show you guys exactly what will be affected. But I also want to show you guys what's happening over in Louisiana, because they're implementing new laws which will criminalize smokers. But before we get into that, just a quick reminder, if you're getting value from this video, please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support us further, join the ICANN VIP Bean Club or cop some merch from our merch store. And if you happen to be a home gardener, try the ICANN Organics, use the code LEGAL, it works on the bundle and the seeds.
Some states already banned them. Now a federal crackdown on THC and hemp drinks is expected to go into effect in the fall.
Yeah, many in the medical world are celebrating, but when it comes to money, the billion-dollar industry is already unhealthy in places like Ohio, where just a few months ago, sales were limited to dispensaries. Sean McKinnon joins us from Montgomery, where bar owners are speaking out about the cash crunch.
I'm pissed. I think a lot of small businesses and bars are pissed, and they should be pissed, because a lot of money's going down the drain.
Karis Christopher says the Bell and the Bear's reputation as a bar carrying THC drinks was growing until state lawmakers stepped in. After Ohio's THC drink ban went into effect in March, she says more than a dozen regulars dropped off.
So now instead of coming once a weekend to listen to a band, we get them maybe once a month. I think a lot of lawmakers are out of step, and their decisions are based upon their personal beliefs and not what it should be, like what the people are voting for.
Across the river in Bellevue, Kentucky, THC drinks can still be sold at liquor stores like the Party Source. But they've put up a new sign this week reminding customers the drinks are on borrowed time.
This is counting down to November 12th. Unless something happens in Washington, that these products will be effectively banned by the federal government.
Manager Marty Holland says many customers don't know a federal ban will soon force stores like his to take the drinks off their shelves starting in November.
The whole language that got inserted into it sort of happened a little bit secretively during our government shutdown at the end of last year. All of a sudden, the government reopened and the dust settled, and we realized, holy crap, they are banning these products the way that it's stated in the budget bill.
Soon to be superseded by the federal law, Congress would have to draft and pass a new law if bars like the Bell and the Bear want another shot at selling THC drinks.
Regulate it. Don't ban it. Do you know what I mean? Like, we are responsible for what happens in this bar.
And that's a common theme with a lot of folks, from consumers to local businesses and also medical patients, because a lot of folks do use these hemp-derived consumables to manage medical illnesses. Now, another product which is really at risk under these new laws and this ban are seeds. And a lot of folks have been asking, are seeds and genetics going to be affected? And as the legislation is currently drafted, it very well may be. But first, have a look at this, because according to this article, the seed company says that the federal bill could shut them down completely for good. Have a look.
A hemp seed company based in Fairfield says it might have to close its doors this fall after a federal bill was passed last year to effectively ban its product. The owner says not only will it impact them, it'll have ripple effects nationwide.
Bethany Matthew began North Atlantic Seed Company in 2019. It's a business that resells hemp seeds from around 75 farmers nationwide to several hundred brick and mortars, other farmers, and growers. She's grown it to over 20 employees, some her family, and others that now feel like it.
We're all very tight-knit, and anyone we've hired over the years has become family because that's just the culture here.
In 2018, the federal government approved a bill that made any part of a cannabis plant under 0.3% THC considered hemp, making companies like Matthews possible. Last November, an exclusion to that was passed as a part of an appropriations bill to help reopen the government. She says any seed that comes from a parent exceeding that number is now illegal. What will this do to your business?
I mean, it will shut our business down, right? So it will, the product we sell, which is hemp seeds, will now be a Schedule I drug.
The ban targets intoxicating hemp. North Atlantic sells both kinds, but at the seed stage, it's hard to differentiate and trace.
Unfortunately, you can't tell the difference when you're looking at a seed. It's all the same thing. It's all cannabis sativa L.
The business interacts with thousands of businesses nationwide that this will impact. She says that her and many of her colleagues are fighting for the hemp seed industry that she says is treated like an afterthought in Washington.
There's a lot of hope that it will be changed, but what we came to realize pretty quickly was that there's really no voice for the seed industry in D.C.
And she's absolutely right. When it comes to seeds and genetics, it's almost as if it's an afterthought. And under these new rules, if these seeds can produce plants with a certain amount of THC, then they automatically fall within the ban. Now, while there are certain folks who may not be worried about these issues and where they're going to get their seeds next, there are a lot of seed banks who are really concerned about this change. Now, somewhere else where we're also seeing big changes is over in Louisiana, because according to this, their governor has signed a bill that will send people to jail for consuming the good herb near college campuses. Now, this is really interesting, because this bill was officially signed into law, and it will send people to jail for up to 1 year if they smoke the good herb within 2,000 feet of a school property, and that includes college campuses. Now, on college campuses, there are college students who do consume the good herb. So does that mean that those college students will also be sent to jail for a year, completely destroying their education and their futures? And according to this, 2 Republicans over in Louisiana, they really pushed for this law. Now, despite this bill being signed into law, not everyone was on board. And there were Democrats over in Louisiana who pushed back on this bill. And this is what they had to say. Listen.
For marijuana, the bill establishes a clear and consistent penalty up to a year in jail and a $1,000 fine.
This bill is targeted towards the use of marijuana on school property. It creates a 200-foot buffer around school property.
The statute indicates it's 2,000 feet.
2,000 feet?
Or on the school bus, yeah.
What's the penalty for an individual using marijuana within that established buffer zone?
Under this bill, smoking or vaping marijuana in a school zone would be up to $1,000 and up to a year in prison.
That's a felony.
Correct.
But if my home is within the buffer, right, the 2,000-foot buffer, is that not in the school zone?
If you are committing a crime within 2,000 feet of a school zone, you would be subject to prosecution under this bill.
If it's already illegal to vape and smoke in the school zone, what's the purpose of your bill? You said just to enhance the penalty.
Criminalize.
Is that the only thing you're doing?
To make it easier to enforce, to create a sufficient deterrent.
I'm just trying to see why we're enhancing penalties for marijuana when everywhere I've looked, they're decreasing penalties for marijuana.
Mr. Marcel, I'm really not concerned with what's happening in other states.
I'm looking at this, and your bill says on any property used for school purposes by any school. So that's not limited to a school zone. So your bill says on line 15, while on any property used for school, and then on line 16, purposes by any school. So it's property used for schools for a school purpose. So that could be an off-site auditorium, like here in Baton Rouge. A lot of the high schools play football games at Olympia Stadium. They play at Memorial Stadium. That's nowhere near schools. It would certainly be outside of a school zone, but your bill seems to encompass that.
School property means all property used for school purposes. Not use school zone, just sort of as an all-encompassing term.
Let's say I'm in my backyard on my private property, and I'm vaping. Assuming for the sake of this argument, vaping marijuana. Is there not some right to do some of the things on my private property? The bill would encompass that as well, would it not?
If you feel like it's more acceptable to commit crimes on your property than off of it, we just have a fundamental disagreement.
Does the bill have the same prohibitions if I drink tequila or beer or wine in my backyard on my own property?
Yeah, this bill only addresses marijuana.
All right. And so scientifically, what's more harmful for you, alcohol or marijuana?
I have no idea.
Well, I can tell you alcohol is. If your premise is that you don't want kids to see something harmful from a school zone, why not include that as well? I think your bill is overly broad, and for that reason, it would be hard for me to support it.
59 yeas, 34 yeas, and the bill finally passes.
So unfortunately, the bill passed and was signed into law, but it doesn't mean that there was not pushback. And as you guys would have heard, they raised some really interesting points. What actually constitutes a school zone? And what happens if I'm on my private property, my private home, but I'm within that buffer range? There's so many issues. But let me know what you guys think about all that. Everything that we discussed in today's video. Now, coming up in our next video, President Trump's new weed order just triggered a huge problem across America. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. It's coming up right now.
gas when I'm dipping competition, getting past, living fast, furious, staying on track, never worry when I'm spinning. Laughs better getting back, ride from a dog, alphabeted on us, you gon' get it back. Never split this pack. Whenever I witness cap, we ain't fucking with your fiction, facts, your conviction lacks. When I get up in my bag, I'ma spend, we ain't tripping off tax, clipping this tag, working on my wish list, cooking this cake. Let me flip this stack. You a flash in the pan, while you relaxing, I can't. But deep in the pack, this a damn, putting tracks in the sand, pushing my craft at the fan, got the people all clapping their hands, putting cash in my brand, keeping my octane high, my grade premium, not 8-9 or 8-7, and when I run across the 8 line, I'm 9-1, I gun it, clock great time, my time come, disappearing in the dark horizon, way I cut turns, I'm as sharp as diamonds, got them on tilt like a car's alignment, this is raw refinement, not a hard assignment, I'ma give it gas, give it gas, bitch.